Hello, Dr. Miaken Zeigler of Zeigler Chiropractic, and welcome to tonight's workshop where we're talking about electromagnetic fields. You know, if you are, if you've been around the last year and a half, you've heard conversation on 5G, and 5G is now ready. You're seeing these 5G poles going up throughout neighborhoods. They're much smaller, they're more compact, but they're much more powerful. And tonight's conversation is really looking at what are the effects of electromagnetic fields or electromagnetic radiation on our health. And before we go there, I'm reading this great book. It's called You Can Fix Your Brain by Dr. Tom O'Brien. He is a chiropractor, but also a functional med doc, and he trains tons of other healthcare practitioners, DCs, MDs on functional medicine. And I was reading in his book, he was talking about looking at your body and health as the triangle of health, right? Whether it's your gut, your cardiovascular system, your hormones, the brain, or musculoskeletal system, you can always look at a condition from all three sides of the triangle, okay? First, looking at your structure, right? What is the physical health of your body, the structural health, the muscles, the bones, the joints, and the movement. Then we look at the biochemistry, so how we eat, what we drink, what we consume, including the air we breathe. The third being mindset, right? It encompasses emotional and spiritual aspects of your life that it can affect your health and brain function. He said around the 1990s, he realized that there's a fourth component to the triangle of health that has begun to substantially affect our lives over the last 20 to 30 years. He said, as a matter of fact, there are hundreds of studies now documenting the impact of this new arena with brain deterioration diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, schizophrenia. And he says the fourth component of health outside of the structure, the biochemistry, and the mindset, so how you, the physical, the mental, and the chemical. The fourth component of health is the effects of exposures to electromagnetic fields. The constant bombardment of EMFs is a new category in the last 20 years of immune system assault, particularly to our brains. This is an unintended side effect of technology, but make no mistake, EMFs are potentially as damaging as any other toxic assault to our bodies. We'll watch a video here in just a second, but he says, just go into a restaurant and check for wireless access on your smartphone. Many times there are 6, 8, even 10 different networks available. That means there are 6, 8, or 10 different electromagnetic frequencies pulsing through the air, hitting your brain with the potential of negatively affecting its function. It's a minor impact, but a cumulative one. So the fourth triad to the triangle, the base of the triangle, he is talking about electromagnetic fields. So let's dive in. Okay, so let's just first talk about the history of, when electric power was first introduced. I mean, back in 1882, Thomas Edison set up the first commercial electric power system in New York. Then 1893 came around with Tesla. He lit up Chicago's World Fair with the first AC power system, right? 1901. We had the first radio telegraph across the Atlantic. Then 1915, the first voice transmission by radio. I mean, we're talking just a little over 100 years ago. 1920, first commercial radio station. Many people were still eating supper by candle or kerosene at this time. Then you accelerate to World War II, 1947, the Bell telephone that set up their first microwave phone relay towers between New York and Boston. 1947, first commercial television broadcast. And since then, nearly every human action has involved an electrical appliance, right? So since 1882, and we are 2021. So 130 years-ish later, life looks completely different than it did to folks living back then, right? Had to really live by the sun, right? When the sun comes up, we start our workday. When the sun goes down, we are finished with our workday. And now we've got technology that provides light and electricity, that provides an ability to stay connected, not just with our neighbor, but our friends who live, you know, on the other side of the globe. You know, not only via telephone, but we are so vastly connected to one another in a way that we never have been before. And so just really understanding how swiftly that history took place. So let's first talk about understanding EMF or EMR, but electromagnetism. Okay, electromagnetic fields or radiation, what are they? So first, understanding a field, that's something that exists in a space around an object that produces it, right? So the example is you take a magnet, and the magnet has a field around it. And as you introduce iron particles to that field, they jump through space to that magnet. So it is an invisible entity or field that exerts a force on the iron. An electric field extends outward from electrically charged object and emphasizes its connection to the transmitter. So I want you to all do just an action with me, okay? So I want you to experience what a field feels like from our own bodies, because we all are producing some electricity. So I want you to all rub your hands together. Rub them, rub them, rub them. Good. And then I want you to shake them. Shake them nice. And shake them up and shake them down. We're just turning on the receptors in our hands. Okay. Now I want you to take your hands. I want you to bring them out wide. Then I want you to bring them together. I want you to you can close your eyes if you need to. I want you to feel the air between your hands. You'll get to a spot where you feel pressure, maybe a heaviness, maybe heat. I want you to move one hand, pulse towards the other. I want you to do the other way. I want you to circle your hand here. Slide it back and forth. Okay. Now, some people, as you're doing that, I'm just going to talk you through that. Some people find that to be a really easy exercise to feel the energy coming off your body because they practice with their hands, or, you know, as a chiropractor who practices with my hands every day on a daily basis, that is a really simple exercise for me to just feel the energy coming off of my body. Some people, it takes a little bit longer. Some people need to get really close, and that's where they start to feel that energy. I want to do that just so that you can experience that we all have a field. All living things are have an electric or you know, an energy coming off of them, right? And so when you add these artificial electric fields from technology, that impacts you as a living being. So practice that. If you didn't necessarily feel it, I want you to just really sit with it as an exercise for you to do, just to get in tune with your body and see if you can start feeling that energy coming off of you. So you have an electromagnetic field, and then you have radiation, which is an outward flowing aspect. That means there's fluctuation in the fields that radiate outward from the transmitter as waves of energy. So energy behave as streams of massless, chargeless particles. And that's where I want to talk about radiation a little bit more and then get into this video. So there's two different types of radiation. Ionizing radiation, which is the X-ray, right? It's the shortest ultraviolet wavelengths, gamma and nuclear radiation. And there's non-ionizing radiation, which is light and heat. That's the communication that typically takes place with microwave wavelengths, radio frequencies. They're extremely low frequency. Okay, so here is the spectrum. You see EHF, SHF. It's extremely high frequency, all the way down to extremely low frequency. So there's many wavelengths in between there. Except for light and infrared heat, we can't perceive any of these energies without instruments. So most of us don't even realize how drastically and abruptly electromagnetic environments have changed in 1 century, right? We don't experience or know that any of this is around us. So here is a picture of all of the wavelengths here, okay? This is this tiny rainbow right here. That's the visible light, right? That's what we can experience. All of this other stuff, we don't even know that it's there. So let's take a look at a video here so you can make sure you can see this. Let's go to here. Right here. Okay. This is going to play with some sound.
Something surrounds you, bombards you, some of which you can't see, touch, or even feel. Every day, everywhere you go. It is odorless and tasteless, yet you use it and depend on it every hour of every day. Without it, the world you know could not exist. What is it? Electromagnetic radiation. These waves spread across a spectrum from very short gamma rays to X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light waves, even longer infrared waves, microwaves, to radio waves which can measure longer than a mountain range. This spectrum is the foundation of the information age and of our modern world. Your radio, remote control, text message, television, microwave oven, even a doctor's X-ray, all depend on waves within the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic waves, or EM waves, are similar to ocean waves in that both are energy waves. They transmit energy. EM waves are produced by the vibration of charged particles and have electrical and magnetic properties. But unlike ocean waves that require water, EM waves travel through the vacuum of space at the constant speed of light. EM waves have crests and troughs like ocean waves. The distance between crests is the wavelength. While some EM wavelengths are very long and are measured in meters, many are tiny and are measured in billionths of a meter, nanometers. The number of these crests that pass a given point within 1 second is described as the frequency of the wave. One wave, or cycle, per second is called a hertz. Long EM waves, such as radio waves, have the lowest frequency and carry less energy. Adding energy increases the frequency of the wave and makes the wavelength shorter. Gamma rays are the shortest, highest energy waves in the spectrum. So, as you sit watching TV, not only are there visible light waves from the TV striking your eyes, but also radio waves transmitting from a nearby station, and microwaves carrying cell phone calls and text messages, and waves from your neighbor's Wi-Fi, and GPS units in the cars driving by. There is a chaos of waves from all across the spectrum passing through your room right now.
Yes, we're going to stop that right there. I think that provides a really nice visual for you to start realizing, you know, how much we really are exposed to day to day when it comes to electromagnetic fields or radiation. And the question is, what are the health impacts from those electromagnetic fields, right? We don't even know they're there. So non-ionizing effects on health. So concern of electromagnetic fields, long-term effects of stress to an animal or human leads to stress, decompensation, deterioration, breakdown over time. These are just some of the things that research is showing that electromagnetic fields have impacted in humans. So we see central nervous system, cardiovascular, endocrine, and growth control systems. So we see impacts to the hypothalamus, which is the emotional center, your pineal gland, pleasure center, and then how you respond to stress. We see stress to the blood-brain barrier. Kind of important to make sure we don't get anything into the brain. That blood-brain barrier is there to be a barrier to protect you. We see depression, suicide. We see reduced white blood cells, red blood cell count, overall reduced immune function. decreased hemoglobin concentration, oxygen capacity, thyroid, again, pineal gland, pathological changes in blood chemistry, damage to adrenal glands, diminished sense of touch, decline in explorative, and slower learning. This is a problem, wouldn't you agree? And again, we just entered into 5G. And here's the thing, previous cell phone towers were really tall, right? Now that we have 5G, and I don't know, I have a few in my neighborhood, but they're much shorter and they're smaller, but they are much stronger. So not only are they closer to the ground, but they're closer to where we are and where we exist. And so that means our exposure to these electromagnetic fields is increased, right? And so again, how can you protect yourself from this fourth, or this base of the triangle of health when we don't even know that it's out there? We don't even see it, except when we're pulling on, pulling up the Wi-Fi and seeing, oh, all of my neighbors, this is all my neighbors' Wi-Fi, right? And when you have a weaker immune system, we see stronger diseases. So I got a lot of this information out of a book called The Body Electric. It is fascinating. So we're talking about a lot of the electromagnetic fields generated for everyday, use and things that we see. But what we don't necessarily realize, and he goes into it in a lot of detail, is, the government, our military, anything that the military is doing to protect us or to, garner information from, anybody who's not us. They use a lot of, electromagnetic type material, whether it's, above ground or underground. Some of the stuff is buried in the ground to make sure that, they're able to get access to information and data, in a private way. So understand that this is not just the stuff that we know about, right? We are exposed to high level electromagnetic fields in day-to-day life, but also you've got to look at these other layers of, governments trying to, access information and utilize an infrastructure, for their needs, whether it's for military safety and protection or in other areas. So all of this impacts the function of our health, our brains, our bodies, our immune systems. So these listed here are previously described as pathogens that weren't capable of inducing any disease. And yet here we are. We've got Lyme disease, right? Legionnaire's disease, AIDS, herpes, Reye's syndrome, and also we see an increased cancer, increased birth defects. So there's something going on. These are taken from this book, The Body Electric, which is specifically looking at health and the impacts of health through the lens of our exposure to electromagnetic fields. So the question is, how can you protect yourself? The biggest thing is really increasing the distance between you and your electronics. So keep your cell phones, your computers, your iPads at a distance. I know a lot of us carry our phones in our pockets. Some women carry their phones in their bra. I mean, that is right by our reproductive organs. And one of the more of an anecdotal, story. My husband was coming across the stories about, how to support healthy male reproduction as we were looking at, planning for a family. And he came across this anecdotal story of one man who said, I want to see how, having a phone in my pocket impacts the health of my sperm. So he went and got his sperm tested for viscosity, for, you know, I guess coherence is what I call it. Coherence being, you know, the sperm are swimming in the right direction and all together in a direction, and the amount of sperm. And so what he did, he got it tested before, and then he wore his phone in his pocket for, it was either 30 minutes or an hour every day for 30 days. Okay, 30 minutes or an hour. And he got his sperm tested again after those 30 days. And he found that a significant difference with the health of his sperm. So not only did he have less sperm count, but the sperm were swimming. It was like a chaotic sperm where they were swimming everywhere. So they didn't really know which direction to swim. And the viscosity of the sperm was much less. So again, when we're talking about fertility health, right? A lot of conversations around, you know, women and what's the health what's the health of their fertility, but we have to look at the men too. Excuse me, sorry about that. So a lot of times we see, when we look at couples, you got to look at the health of both couples, because I know a lot of people who carry their phone on their person all day long, right? And where is that phone? And how does that impact the body? So increasing the distance between your electronics and your body, right? The further away you get from that electromagnetic field, the less it has an impact on you. So keep your technology away from you. And this is interesting. Bluetooth earpieces are recommended to reduce cell phone radiation. So instead of keeping your cell phone on you, a Bluetooth earpiece is better, is what I've read. I also have on my phone, I have an electromagnetic field cover. So I can talk on my phone this way, so I don't get the direct radiation to my head. A lot of times putting on speaker and speaking into your phone versus holding it to your head all day is a big thing. You can reduce your electromagnetic field exposure in your home by using a self-regulating Wi-Fi router, meaning you can set a specific time in that 24-hour cycle to just shut off Wi-Fi. So if you know, I go to bed at 11 o'clock every night, don't get up till 8 o'clock, I'm not plugging into my computer or my phone until about 9, you can shut your Wi-Fi off from 11 till 9 the next day, and you won't have that EMF exposure when you're not using it. You may want to rethink your smart home, right? Everything is wireless, everything is accessible through our phones or our technology. Well, you may want to rethink that, because the less exposure you have at home, the better off you are. You can avoid high voltage power lines. There was an area in the book where it talked about how people who lived closer to power lines and like high voltage power lines they had higher levels of suicide rates within blocks of those power lines. Even we see increased car accidents around large power lines. So avoid those. Personal shielding. So they make a lot of jewelry these days, whether it's necklace, earrings, bracelets, things that you can wear to protect yourself from electromagnetic fields. So there's tons of stuff out there. You can just look up EMF shielding, personal shielding, and see what you find. Another big thing, I mean, we are walking on synthetic surfaces all day long. I mean, we're in shoes all day long, so we're not necessarily getting in contact with the ground. It's called earthing. So when you make direct contact with the earth, you put yourself in contact with electrons found on the surface of the earth, which can balance out your energetic field and can have profound effects on your health. I mean, they've written books on earthing. So just finding yourself outside completely unplugged during your day can really make a profound effect on your health and your mental health, right? So those are things that you can do to protect yourself. Excuse me. Amanda, you're gonna have to take over here. The other thing, I mean, it is, how can you protect yourself? But what can you do to protect yourself from your neighbor's wireless routers and signals, from your neighbor's smart meters, from 100, 200, 500 cell phone towers within a small radius around your home? When you're walking around outside, dirty electricity in the walls of your home, 5G, it is everywhere. So for you, it is really looking at how can I protect myself? What can I do to really reduce my exposure on a day-to-day basis, understanding that it impacts your body, your brain. I mean, let's go back to this list, right? All of these things are impacted. Central nervous system, cardiovascular system, endocrine system, growth control systems. And this is stuff we do not see, right? We can make sense of the foods that we're eating, right? Oh, maybe I shouldn't be eating these foods, or breathing in air that is polluted with smoke from the fires in California or Montana, right? We can see those make sense to us, but we don't see the wireless that is on all the time, everywhere, different levels of those frequency of rays that are having impacts on our health, right? So really the key is, how can you protect yourself and protect your home? So other ways to protect your home: unplugging your appliances when not in use. This not only avoids wasting energy, but it'll reduce the levels of EMFs emitted in your home. Keep your bedroom clear of any EMFs as possible. Avoid halogen fluorescent lighting. If you do use Wi-Fi, instead of an Ethernet intranet at home, unplug it when it's not in use, or use one of those mechanical routers that will shut it off during certain periods of time. And they're coming out with products. I found this fascinating. This makes me laugh. Avoid unnecessary Wi-Fi, such as wireless pacifiers that monitor baby's temperature, and wireless diapers that alert you when the baby's diaper is wet, right? Those are unnecessary. I know that there's some fancy baby carriage out there that whenever it notices that baby's starting to move, it starts to shake in a different way, right? It's a smart baby bassinet. But again, that is exposing baby to unnecessary Wi-Fis, throughout their night, anytime they're sleeping. So really think about how you can reduce this. There's a great, I think they're in Boulder, but there's a great company in Boulder. I'm happy to provide any contact or information if you'd like, where I have actually protected my home space from electromagnetic fields by using some of their products and putting it on outlets, putting it on my fuse box, so that I've really created a boundary in my home to protect from any outside electromagnetic fields. So there's things that you've really got to think about when it comes to this piece, because 5G is here. There was a suit brought up against the regulators who introduced 5G and just implemented it. And the folks who, I think it was Robert F. Kennedy who brought the case to court, and they actually won, saying that they did not do their due diligence with reviewing all of the research around electromagnetic fields and its impact on human health. And I don't know where they go from here, because 5G is already here, but that's where we've each got to be personally responsible to take care of ourselves, protect our home, and protect our families. So it is 6:15, so that means my time is up. I'm going to be conscientious of your time and respect your time tonight. I hope everything that I do in the office to support your education is to help with layers and pieces of things that you can do to support your health and well-being, right? When you start checking off the list saying, okay, I'm doing this, I'm getting my chiropractic care, awesome, check. Oh, I'm starting to do my postural interruptions and starting getting healthy movement and very intentional, specific movement. Check, right? Oh, I'm starting to be more conscious about the foods that I'm eating. I'm not doing the fast foods anymore. Check. I've switched from, pop to water. Check, right? I've got an air filtration system in my home, or I'm shutting off the Wi-Fi in the middle of the night, right? Check. All of those have a cumulative impact on your health over time. When you consistently do those things, you pick one thing, and as you've got it done, you're consistent with it, you add another piece in. But everything you do has a cumulative impact. And so I appreciate when you show up to these workshops, you get this information. And if you just take one piece of it and apply it to your life, that can literally change the trajectory of your life, right? And only you can do it. We are all working on our own health. My body is in its state because of the choices I've made. I can't blame anybody else. And I can only be the person who can make those changes. And same as for you. You can only do those things for you. So I appreciate you choosing, to get your chiropractic care with me. But bigger than that, I appreciate you getting chiropractic care and investing in them. So I look forward to seeing you in the office. I look forward to hearing your takeaway from the workshop. And I will see you when I see you.